Flight controllers, go for landing. Retro. Go, I don't go. Guidance, go. GNC, go. Econ, go. Control, go.
Ninth Planet Audio.
Capcom, we're go for landing.
Thank you for joining us tonight for the meeting of the Boone County Board of Education. I will now call the meeting to order.
It's December 14th, 2023. I'm Akilah Hughes, and I'm in Florence, Kentucky. It's my hometown, and I've braved a cold night and 2.5 very long hours of bureaucratic updates about bus drivers, software, and survey results in order to speak at the Boone County Schools Board of Education meeting.
So we'll be bringing that back to our January classified task force meeting. Disaggregating that.
Many people who had signed up to speak at the public comment section dropped out as the agenda dragged on. I was determined to stick it out, and finally, at 9:31 p.m., it was my turn.
And I do see Ms. Hughes, our former student board rep from back in the old days, is first up to talk about an item. It's not on our agenda tonight, but that's okay. And I do notice that a couple of people have yielded their time to you, so.
Good evening. I'm Akilah. Actually, wait. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's rewind a bit.
On our agenda.
87 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived...
Okay, that's actually too far back. Hold on, give me a second. All right, May 2005. Perfect. It's the final week of my senior year at Boone County High School. But instead of watching movies and emptying our lockers, there's a pep rally arranged for the final quarter of the day. Imagine 2,000 sweaty high schoolers crammed into the gym, chattering through the post-lunch haze, waiting for an update on why any of this is happening. Most pep rallies followed the same format. There was some raucous speech by the principal, the cheerleaders would perform, some sports boy would do a speech from Varsity Blues.
I woke up kind of sad. But then I cheered up when I realized it was only a dream, because I know we'll be Bangville by way more than that.
But seeing as there were no more games to attend, this pep rally was kind of mysterious. The pep band rose to their feet, and with a 1 and a 2 and a... Everyone got up and clapped along. Some would muster more sincerity than others. In addition to the cueing of smoke machines, a large paper banner unfurled the work of a listless art class at the end of the year, decorated with the words, "Let's go," and the school's initials, BCHS. Cheerleaders shook their pom-poms and kicked. This was going to be something. And that something was a relatively high-energy kicking and punching figure. The smoke settled, and the secret was revealed. A brand new, felt-bodied, blue-eyed, big-headed Confederate general named Mr. Rebel. The reactions were mixed. The demographics of the school were like a fistful of Cocoa Puffs sprinkled in a family-sized box of kicks. Among the white underclassmen, there was a wave of excitement and anticipation, but for the white seniors, there was a sense of too little too late. For the 4 years of our attendance at the school, there was no physical mascot on the sidelines cheering on the Rebels. Why did the incoming freshmen deserve that more than them? Among the black kids was a wave of side-eyeing and disgust. It wasn't breaking news that our school had a racist team name, the Rebels, named for the Confederacy. It hadn't even been a decade since they repainted the Confederate flag that was on the gym floor. Every one of us was acutely aware of what it meant to be black in Florence, Kentucky. Now, here was a bobble-headed mascot to remind us that we were never meant to belong. And it's a little funny, kind of, that 140 years later, in a state that did not secede from the Union and fight as part of the Confederacy, there was a hatred deep enough to spend real American currency outfitting a mascot none of us related to. Seeing Mr. Rebel made me feel pretty good about graduating and getting away. It's been 18 years, and I've done a lot since then. For those of you who don't know me, hi, I'm Akilah Hughes. I'm a writer, comedian, actor, and podcast host. I'm firmly a millennial, so having a career made up of artsy side hustles isn't that unusual. In the past 5 years, I've written for Steven Soderbergh, voiced a character on Bob's Burgers.
A proposal, I'm gonna cry!
Oh, Nat, I'm flattered, but
released a collection of essays called Obviously Stories from My Timeline from Penguin Random House, put out a banger of a sketch series with Comedy Central and Milana Weintraub called Making Fun with Akilah and Milana, and hosted more than 400 episodes of the hit daily news podcast, What a Day from Crooked Media. I currently live in Los Angeles with my very cute dog that I also rescued in this short time span, but this podcast isn't about any of that. This podcast is about how I went back to my hometown and tried to change my high school's mascot from the Rebels to the Biscuits.
I was a lady rebel. Like, what does that even mean?
The Boone County Rebels will stay the Boone County Rebels, but the image of...
It's right here in black and white in print. They lion.
Bigger than a flag or mascot.
Anytime you're trying to mess with tradition, you have to be ready for serious backlash.
From Ninth Planet Audio, I'm Akilah Hughes, and this is Rebel Spirit, Episode 1, A Homecoming. Some of you American history buffs might be scratching your head wondering why a school in Kentucky, a state that was famously neutral in the Civil War but still practiced chattel slavery, would have the Rebels team name. It's a good question, and one that I began seriously asking in 2015. Back in June of 2015, a white supremacist named Dylan Roof murdered 9 churchgoers in Charleston, South Carolina. A few days later, his manifesto was revealed online, complete with Confederate flags, slurs, and photos of him brandishing weapons. I saw those images as my flight took off from New York to the Cincinnati airport, which is actually in northern Kentucky. I was on my way back home to attend my high school reunion. For the extent of the more than 2-hour flight, I thought about high school. I remember the lack of diversity at the school, how sometimes I would be counting black faces and notice that another black kid was doing the same thing.
Do you have a number, actually, on how many black kids there were in your graduating class?
Oh, man. I wish I knew exactly, but I know there was Renee, Ashley, me. That was the girls. And then there was Q, who was the quarterback. He was like trade-out quarterback with this Greek kid. Q, Ron Meeks, Jamal.
Okay, I count 36.
Total
in the school.
Yeah, and there's like 2,000 kids or something.
The only black administrator I knew was Coach Floyd, a former NFL player whose office got trashed and spray painted with slurs. I remembered getting in-school suspension and threatened with worse for wearing a shirt I decorated with puffy paint to say, "Kiss me, I'm black." One history teacher wouldn't even read it correctly. He'd just loudly repeat, "Kiss me, I'm Irish," as I passed his classroom. That's right, he wasn't even my teacher, just going out of his way to be obnoxious. I thought about the social side effects of being black, how most of the black girls went to prom alone, and the black guys would go with white girls if they were on the football team and the girls' fathers weren't terribly racist. I considered how it wasn't uncommon to see Confederate flags on bumper stickers, t-shirts, and tattoos. It was just something I had to live my adolescence next to. But then I also thought about my friends in forensics and choir, field trips to the zoo where instead of completing our group assignments, we all just met up to watch some monkeys going at it. I remembered a kid getting suspended for making stink bombs and the grassroots campaign to free him from suspension. It was a super complicated flight emotionally, I'll tell you that. Fast forward, I attend the reunion at what was then the Florence Freedom Minor League Baseball Park. The food was unremarkable. There were so many kids with their parents, my former classmates, and everyone was nice. I didn't expect anyone to be unpleasant at the reunion, and genuinely, it was an okay time. I caught up with a few kids from my AP classes and extracurriculars, and it was truly fine. I wrote about all of this for the website Fusion, a short-lived joint venture between ABC and Univision. Rest in peace. Thinking that I'd covered pretty much everything. The school had a racist team name and mascot. Racism happened when I was in high school, just as naturally as fun and crushes and lockers happened in high school. But now, everyone kind of grew up and saw more of the world and generally didn't seem represented by those racist totems. They, being the people still in Florence, Kentucky, did not like this. Pretty quickly after that essay was published, the Cincinnati Enquirer republished it in their Sunday paper. The photo for the article was a nearly 12 by 12 inch color square of me photoshopped onto a Confederate flag. The title was changed to "Rebel Pride Hard to Take." After that, it was pretty much nonstop discourse on Facebook. Some of my fellow alums agreed with me, while many claimed it wasn't that racist. Like, for example, one person said that they only got called the N-word one time at Boone County, and oh, did I know that I was the real racist for talking about rather than ignoring racism? Thankfully, my years of being a YouTuber gave me pretty thick skin about the whole thing. Time moved on, and so did I. Boone County, however, still hasn't. 2 years later, in 2017, there was a white supremacist rally that took place in Charlottesville, Virginia.
You will not replace us! You will not replace us!
You can probably recall the khakis and tiki torches, right? Well, during that riot, a protester, Heather Hare, was murdered, run over by a car.
James Fields faces a murder charge in Charlottesville, Virginia. Fields, who grew up in Boone County, drove into a crowd.
Boone County, Kentucky is where I'm from, too. He grew up fewer than 10 miles from my high school and is currently serving a life sentence, plus 419 years on state murder charges and another life sentence on federal domestic terrorism charges. The timing of that white supremacist rally really is, at least in my opinion, why it's now 2024 and the team name is still the Rebels. Charlottesville happened in August 2017, 2 years after the Charleston church shooting. And in those 2 years, America started doing away with Confederate relics. Streets named for Robert E. Lee were changed, statues celebrating their loser leadership were melted down or disappeared, and in March 2017, it was reported that Boone County High School was going to get a new mascot.
Being asked to leave their mark after they graduate. They're being challenged to create a new logo, a new mascot that'll be used across the school's teams and clubs. Right now, different clubs use different logos. Now, that's not uncommon, but Boone County wants to create a look that also creates an identifiable brand. The change also means the longtime Mr. Rebel will be retired. About 30 students have already submitted ideas. A winning submission will be named in the coming weeks.
The news seems to have been met with a collective shrug. There was no outcry, no petitions to keep the Confederate general springing up after the announcement. But the 2017-2018 school year started just 2 weeks after the Charlottesville riot, and what was agreed upon and uncontroversial in March was suddenly an uphill battle.
But for Boone County, Mr. Rebel is no longer the school mascot, leaving some parents and alumni with questions.
We don't want a new logo. We want our Rebel. You know, why take it away now? Why? They're taking our statues. They're taking everything.
They're taking our statues. Now, which statues might those be? Who might she be associating the Rebels with? There was also a Save Mr. Rebel Facebook group founded on August 24th, 2017. It had been 5 months since the announcement that the school was getting rid of Mr. Rebel, but suddenly this stupid mascot was worth rallying behind. Not despite the white supremacist rally, but because of it. That's what we're dealing with. And so, since 2017, nothing has changed. The school is still the Rebels. Mr. Rebel is dead, and for a lot of people, that's good enough. But not for me. I'm doing this podcast with one goal in mind, and that's to get the team name changed for good. Goodbye, Boone County Rebels. Hello, Boone County Biscuits. Okay, so why Biscuits? Well, when you ask why the Rebels, one deflection is that the short-lived and famously losing Confederate rebels against the United States of America are the heritage of the area. We already discussed how that's not true, but that's what you'll be told. It's not hateful, it's just our heritage. Don't discuss what the war was about. In fact, remove any history books that tell you it was about slavery. No one is questioning whether or not it's a heritage to be proud of or pointing out that it's not really even a Kentucky thing. They aren't really asking any questions at all. But if we do want to celebrate Southern heritage, I can't think of a better, more inclusive icon than a biscuit. It's warm, it's welcoming, it's not especially healthy, and you'll be hard-pressed to find a worthy one outside of the South. It's vegetarian, and you really can't beat them. They're great. Also, Biscuits has the same number of syllables as Rebels, so the cheerleaders won't have to change their cheers that much. I've thought about it a lot, and I think the Boone County Biscuits has a real ring to it. What do you think of the Boone County Biscuits? Just as a name.
The Boone County what? Okay, so like a proposal or?
What do you put on the side of the football helmet? Is it like just a static biscuit, or is it like a biscuit around a bowl of sausage gravy?
The mascot needs to be something that celebrates Southern heritage. Perhaps it could be the Boone County Biscuits. How does that hit you?
Biscuits?
Yeah.
I don't know. Not really feeling biscuits.
Not feeling biscuits, fair.
Biscuits, okay. I can't wait to see that.
Maybe the Biscuits name is Mr. Rebel.
Yeah, whatever. Like Rebel Biscuits, Fluffy
Yeah.
Rebel. Like there's something there.
I mean, it's cute.
Right. And it's honestly, it could be Biscuits, right? Like.
Right, it could be so many things, but I just know what it can't be at this point, and
Exactly.
let's get it done.
Yeah.
All right, well, not everyone's into the whole Biscuit team name, but no biggie. We're going to dive deep into mascots, good and bad, team names, and what helps create school spirit a little bit later. But first, let me tell you a little bit about my hometown of Florence, Kentucky, and the one and only Florence Mall. Back in the 70s, Florence tied its newly built mall to the water tower. It said in big black letters, Florence Mall, as a way to get people driving to and from Cincinnati to stop. The letters were a little too big, larger than highway advertising laws allowed, and they legally had to change it. The mayor at the time had the brilliant idea to change Florence Mall to Florence Y'all. They literally painted out a little bit of the M to make it into a Y and an apostrophe. Originally, just a quick fix, the phrase stuck, becoming a cherished symbol for the city over nearly 50 years. The water tower, the mall, the y'all of it all are fixtures of my childhood in the region. I came back to Florence for a week in September 2023 to start my quest to change the mascot. There was a school board meeting to attend and a big homecoming game at the end of the week, our main draw, but my first stop was the mall.
And there's a beautiful view of the water tower. Just stunning. Florence, y'all. My whole life. This is our Empire State Building. This is it. There's nothing, like, you can see it's just like a fence.
Being home again is strange. I come back probably once a year to visit family and friends, but to be back for a full week in my old stomping grounds is wild. Nothing is really the same. There's an explosion of new chain restaurants and shops. There are sidewalks. And even if it's diminished in stature and importance, there's still the mall. A 90s relic, but still standing.
Yeah, there's still the Claire's. I got my ears pierced there when I was 10.
The mall seemed like the right place to start out enacting our game plan. Except...
It's a pretty dead mall. There's probably 10 people we can even talk to. How is this the mall? I mean, this used to be like if you were in high school in the early 2000s, you would go on dates to the mall, you would hang out with your friends at the mall. Forever 21 is there. Like that was the store I worked in when I worked at a store, but I also worked at the Hershey's ice cream, which no longer exists. For Florence as like a destination, the mall was really kind of the biggest thing in the area, like northern Kentucky when I was growing up. And so we are here. We're going to go outside and stand on the sidewalk, talk to some people about Biscuits and see how they feel about it. And wow, I'm overwhelmed by how depressing this place is to me. Sorry, I know you all are about to eat, but if you have like 2 minutes for a survey, we're giving out free Target gift cards. It's like 5 questions and it's about biscuits.
Biscuits?
Biscuits.
Oh, I'm the perfect person for this.
Homemade or store-bought?
So you have a strong opinion about that?
We love biscuits. Bread's my favorite food.
Would you support a sports mascot that was a biscuit?
Absolutely, I would be all over that.
That's very random. Biscuit mascot?
Y'all want a biscuit mascot? Like, could you see yourself at a game for the Biscuits? No. Any reason why in particular?
I just think it's weird.
Do you have any ideas for the name of a sports mascot that is a biscuit?
Sea biscuit.
Sea biscuit's a biscuit. I like that. Do you see any issues with a sports mascot that's a biscuit?
No.
No.
Yeah.
No. Biscuits is like universal.
Sports mascots, that's tigers. Why can't a sport mascot be a food?
Like only flag football.
Yeah.
Like not like actual football.
Why a biscuit though?
I think that people would think it was nuts.
All right, I get it. Making a high school team into the Biscuits is an uphill battle. But have you met me?
Some black people were starting to work in the Boone County area. And, you have the mall, you have people who work at the mall, you have stores around the mall. And so different kinds of people come in there. And I think that got their eyes open like, ooh, we'd like to live out here and have a big lawn and a big yard. So
While we were in Florence, I knew I needed to sit down with someone who has known me my whole life, the legendary Marilyn Arnold, also known as my mom. Marilyn was born and raised in Covington, Kentucky, just outside of Florence. So she's seen decades of change in the area, and I wanted to get her take on this mascot journey. Per usual, she did not hold back.
you know, they're either going to say, oh, she's just a troublemaker, come back to town to do this.
They want this to be a welcoming place. But a Confederate general does not project that to a lot of people. What do you think is keeping it there, besides tradition? Or maybe just tradition?
Racism. And I really believe that people need education, and they keep saying they have, you know, diversity officers everywhere and things like this. But this takes a real education and some willingness to open up to yourself and learn yourself and who you really are.
Growing up in Covington, Marilyn experienced a ton of history, from the dangers of Boone County as a sundown town to the slow progress of school integration. Eventually, working for the Board of Education in Covington for 32 years, which is the job that led her to capitalize on the housing boom of the 90s and bring our family to Florence and the house I grew up in while attending BCHS.
When we moved to Florence, you would see rebel flags on people's, they'd have them on their license plates. They'd have them, the Confederate flag, they'd have it,
on shirts.
They'd have it on shirts. You could buy the shirts in the store. Sometimes they'd sell them at the grocery store, at Kroger. You know, occasionally, like, they just catch your eye. Make it very clear they don't want you there. I mean, you walk into the school to register your kids, and there's this pause. You know, and you're going, and you feel it. You know, it's palpable. You're just like, what? Palpable. What is that? You know, what is that feeling? And you know, it's almost, you almost see a nervousness of them while they're gathering the papers and they keep looking over at you. You know, I've had, you know, them say, well, what street is it? And I tell them, and I give them the address, and they said, well, what apartment is it? I said, I don't think there are any apartments over there. And they said, well, what's your apartment number? I said, it's a house.
Yeah.
I said, we live in a house. And the lady looks at me like, how could this be possible?
Yeah.
And she looked at the paper like, she looked at it as if later on she's going to go check. And I just thought, I'm going to leave my kids here?
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I'm thinking, you know, this is, they didn't have cell phones or anything. I'm thinking, what's going to happen? It's Boone County.
Long before Make America Great Again, Blue Lives Matter versus Black Lives Matter, or hell, even Obama, I was navigating the halls of education during the George Bush era. John Kerry was defeated in my senior year. Kentucky is known historically for its political diversity. The pendulum swung between Republican and Democratic control in various offices, but Boone County voted 71% in favor of Bush. Boone County voted 67% in favor of Trump in 2016 and 66% for Trump in 2020. See a pattern? 90% of Boone identifies as white. However, even in this seemingly monolithic landscape, there are shifts afoot. Over the past couple of decades, the non-white population encompassing Black, Hispanic, American Indian, Asian, and others had seen a steady increase. In 2000, this demographic made up 4%, and by a 2022 estimate, it had risen to 12%. That's a lot of percentages to say that when I was in high school, there were not a lot of black kids and not a lot of white kids who would think about a black kid's perspective on Mr. Rebel. They were busy with things. Kids are busy with sports, dances, friends, and, them all.
I remember my brother and I both perceived this whole rebel and Confederate flag thing as this huge embarrassment, backwoods, redneck sort of icon that we didn't understand why it was there. Now, see, we didn't have that history either. Even though we had, you know, educated parents that were pretty good about exposing us to stuff, we weren't getting the story about Boone County's history, right? So we just thought this is stupid and doesn't belong here. And why are you trying to identify us with Mississippi, right?
Yeah.
We didn't know we had lynchings here. We didn't know we had, I mean, we intellectually knew that there was enslavement. We thought, that was in this.
I mean, were you taught that, like, Kentucky was neutral? That's what I was taught every year.
Every time. You hear that every time.
Meet Hillary Delaney, a librarian at the Boone County Library System. She also helms the Borderlands Archive and History Center, where her focus is on African American history in Boone County, Kentucky. She's a Boone County graduate, class of 86, and was definitely a member of Boone County High School's first ever computer club.
But yeah, so like in the 80s, we had, the drill team, and they had the big, stars and bars on their uniforms. And yeah, there were rebel flags around, and there still are rebel flags around, and it's just idiocracy to me. We were just blind to it when we were in high school, and there were, a handful of kids who were African American who were probably real quiet about it, I'm sure. And I think the 80s is just tone deaf, and, there were very few people there to say, hey, please don't do that. Do I think that it's a fair and friendly, welcoming place for everyone all the time? No.
I went to Boone County High School starting in 1991.
This is Jenna Van Lanningham, class of 1994. She gets a lot of real estate in the Boone County yearbooks from competing on the girls' track team.
At Boone, my freshman year, I remember Rebel flags, like being at football games. I actually was involved in sports, and my older brother was too, and we had things with Rebel flags on them, sort of not really knowing or understanding what that meant at all at age 13, 14, 15.
Right.
I don't know of just maybe a handful of Black students in the early 90s, and I think they all were on the football team. And maybe also played some basketball, but it was very white at the time.
About the time that I was getting there, the socioeconomics of the community were starting to change. A higher percentage of the population that was coming in was non-white. It was still predominantly white.
Yeah.
This is Spencer Zimbrot, class of 2011. He has a sweet photo as a sophomore playing piano and is quoted saying, "I play about 4 instruments. I play them either because they're fun or they came naturally." Yearbooks are so cute until you get to a photo of someone posing with Mr. Rebel. Anyway.
What was Rebel spirit like when you were there?
I remember seeing Mr. Rebel at the football games and at pep rallies and things like that. I don't remember having like a strong attachment or affection for him other than the fact that hey, if he comes into the stands, I'm going to high five him, just the things you do at sports ball games anyway.
Yeah, fully.
We're all pretty much on the same page about what Boone was like. And some might say, well, those experiences are in the past, that for Hillary, Jenna, and Spencer, it was a different time. Hell, that even my experience as one of a handful of Black kids at BCHS in the early 2000s, well, that was nearly 20 years ago. And I totally hear you. But talk to kids today, and it doesn't actually sound all that different.
I'm a freshman. I'm on the basketball team. I'm new to. I just moved from Louisville to the school, and I came kind of late in the school, so I was new to all this.
This is Quincy Jackson. He recently moved with his family from Louisville, Kentucky to Florence, and is a current student at Boone County High School.
Coming from Louisville, it's diverse. There's a lot of different people, my color, a lot, and then coming here. First of all, it's called the Rebels, so I kind of anticipated it to, it's way less diverse. It's a lot of white people for real, but but they the thing is they're kind of they're big with rebel pride and stuff. They have that on the walls a lot too.
When you say rebel pride as a student of color, what is it like when you see those sort of messages? What does it mean to you?
It's they're trying to celebrate it, kind of why are we talking about rebel pride?
Yeah, right. And you're a student there. Do you feel I guess when you hear the word rebel, what do you feel like the school is rebelling against? Is there a thing?
Yeah, because the Confederates was called rebels, and it seems they're just seems racist. So yeah, and even our shooting machine has the rebel logo on there.
The guy?
Not yeah, it has that on there.
So it's it shoots the ball to you, you shoot.
Yeah.
And you're looking at Mr. Rebel, literally a Confederate general passing you the ball.
Yeah.
If anyone can, certainly Quincy can agree that the Biscuits is a better name, right?
As a basketball player, I wouldn't really want it to be called the Boone County Biscuits.
Fair. That's fair. You don't want to necessarily...
Okay, so the Biscuits is also a controversial name, but for better reasons than the Rebels is. Remember earlier when I said we were back in Florence for Boone County's homecoming week? Well, now it's Friday night. It's homecoming, and we are in the stands eager to experience the festivities.
Rebels! Hey, Rebels! Let's go! Fight win!
It's sweet. There's Mr. Rebel on a shirt. He's right in the middle. That's our guy.
Yeah, festivities is maybe overselling it. Homecoming at Boone County High School is exactly as I remembered it. Following a week of themed spirit days at school, usually like 70s Day or Pajama Day, the Friday we attend the game is somehow not School Spirit Day, but USA Day. There's an after-school parade with kids from all over the district, including the feeder elementary and middle schools, and it stretches a few blocks in front of the school. The band plays maybe 2 songs, but they're not powerful enough to be heard at any distance. There's candy being thrown from convertibles where the smiling homecoming queen nominees wave and their respective teams and clubs walk beside them. The members of the student council and dance team gently hand candy to the little kids on the sidewalk, but there's more candy than attendees by 100 times, so it'll likely just be littered there. But also, it's high school and homecoming, and it's hard not to get swept up in it despite everything.
Okay, forensic speech and drama? Let's go! I used to go to Boone. You're my people. I love it. There used to be way more Boone kids in forensics.
One thing that feels different is the makeup of the crowd. Boone County High School is now notably diverse. There are kids of all shades with all shades of hair color.
That there are 3 black girls with braids on the middle school team. I really don't want to cry, but I'm I remember there was only one. And it was that was by design. They just really didn't want it. It's kind of hard to ignore at this point that there's just more people of color here.
They seem less repressed than when I walk the halls, and frankly, it's something the school should take pride in.
Oh, got it. Yep, and then all the traffic's coming.
Yeah.
All right, do you want to walk back?
But now that the parade is over, it's time for the game.
I don't recognize anybody, so.
We've got some great tunes to go along with all the excitement here for the Rebel fans. Athletic officials are seldom given the appreciation they deserve. They are given the
When we enter the stadium, it's clear that this event isn't a big deal to the school community. The stands are half empty and everyone's sort of milling about, buying walking tacos and catching up with each other.
Please rise and remove your caps for the singing of the national anthem by the Boone County Choir and alumni from choirs past.
Okay.
You can hear the choir singing the national anthem of the United States and not the Confederacy, so that's a good sign. The pep band is only a couple of bleacher sections away, but if they're playing anything, no one can really hear it. There's a computer program playing radio edits of music, and every few beats we hear, you're listening to Game Time Radio. I wanted to talk to students who were at the game about how they experienced school spirit at Boone County, but most weren't really able to come up with much.
So what brings you to homecoming?
I just wanted to come and watch the football players play football.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay, so you're the
yeah,
fan of
and she invited me, so
What does school spirit mean to you? What about the school, if anything, makes you feel sort of spirited and excited?
Blue.
The color blue.
Blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Kylie, what makes you feel school spirited?
Anything?
No clue.
No clue. That's fair.
The first half of the game highlighted 2 things. 1, the Rebels are no good this season. Maybe part of the reason no one seemed invested in the game was because the team was down 30 points at halftime. The second thing was how desperately the school needs a mascot. The dance team and the cheerleaders were never really in sync and mostly seemed to be talking amongst themselves or visiting with classmates. Wouldn't a mascot be at least a place to focus your attention and not on the flailing athletic department that seems to have spent more money on headsets than good coaches? Halftime had a lot to make up for, and it really didn't.
Welcome to Boone County High School's homecoming celebration, recognizing the class of 2023-2024.
I want to disclaim right now that I'm not making fun of the kids. They're just trying their best. Adolescence is a tough time. That said, imagine Beyoncé's legendary homecoming performance when she headlined Coachella in 2018. Really picture the band, the outfits, the energy. Now, imagine the bizarro opposite. A slow, dirge-like, and too long procession of the Jackson 5's I'll Be There, played by a sad marching band.
Representing the girls' cross-country team.
think he was a teacher here when I was.
Teenage girls in suits being walked by their fathers down the field between two baby shower-inspired blue balloon arches. The announcer says that the candidates have been judged based on a few different categories.
And evaluated based on poise, personality, appearance, and cultural awareness.
Of the notable ones was their appearance. And even though that's implied, it's high school after all, it's still wild to admit out loud when there's not even a check for the winner. Also, cultural awareness? LOL.
First, please help us welcome back our 2022-2023 homecoming queen.
Most people in the crowd are looking at their phones or waiting to use the bathroom. Some students cheer for their friends when they're announced as homecoming court and queen. And then the homecoming court walks off the field, the band packs up, and it's just over. There's no high-energy performance complete with choreographed moves, no cheerleaders rushing onto midfield to hype up the crowd. The whole thing felt deflated, like the balloon arches that struggled to stay up in the evening's fall breeze. The game never got better. There was no made-for-TV come-from-behind ending. The Boone County Rebels, like their Confederate namesakes, lost 36-7. But I left shortly after the second half started. It had been a long week, and I had an early flight in the morning. But mostly, I was exhausted. Coming home, starting these hard conversations about mascots, yes, but also about racism and history and about what it takes to make real change. It was more emotionally taxing than I had expected. I'll be honest. There was a part of me that thought I'd come back to Florence, talk to a few people, and bam, the Boone County Biscuits would come running onto the field. But let's face it, that's not how change happens. And as long a week as it was, it's clear now that this is just the start of something. Because this week was a lot of things, but the main thing it was a huge reminder that these kids, the ones at Boone County High School today and the ones coming into it tomorrow, kids that look different than the ones that were there when I was in school, counting every black kid in a class, they deserve so much more than they have right now. It's about more than a mascot, all right? A mascot is a symbol for the school. It signals what they believe in. It's literally what they cheer for. And they deserve to be proud of their school and all they've accomplished there, and to see that pride reflected back not with rebel pride, but with something better, something beautiful. The homecoming game may have been uninspiring, but ultimately, I left Florence inspired that maybe, just maybe, change can happen here, and inspired to try my hardest to get it done. This season on Rebel Spirit.
Just tell me you're not going to name my baseball team after a goddamn water tower.
You guys came in right in the middle of our culture war. What do you know?
John Alexander Way. That's the guy.
An individual that came to the school saying that God sent him to talk to me about the mascot switch. Is a leader. You choose hills that you want to die on.
There's a safe way to reveal a mascot, and they went the opposite direction.
They are called segregation academies. When the civil rights said that we need to integrate public schools, these charter schools were exempt from that.
Why would we want to be the losing team?
Right.
I just take all the other stuff out of it. We're rocking the team with the L.
The chair of Moms for Liberty is one of the board members.
Oh, there are meetings happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a 4-alarm fire suddenly.
Rebel Spirit is a production of Ninth Planet Audio in association with iHeart Podcasts. Reporting and writing by me, Akilah Hughes. I'm also an executive producer and the host. Produced by Dan Sinker. Edited by Josie Azam. Our assistant editor is Jennifer Dean. Music composed by Charlie Sun. Sound design and mixing by Josie Azam. Our theme song is All the Things I Couldn't Say, performed by Busty and the Bass, courtesy of Arts and Crafts Productions, Inc. Our production coordinator is Kyle Hinton. Our clearance coordinator is Anna Sonnenschein. Production accounting by Dilpreet Singh. Additional research support from Janice Dillard. Abraham Lincoln voice performed by Hal Lublin. Executive producers for Ninth Planet Audio are Elizabeth Bakewit and Jimmy Miller. Special thanks to Jay Becker and the whole team at BLDG, the Florence Yalls, Amber Hoffman, Hillary Delaney, and Leslie Chambers. If you have a racist mascot at your high school, or are an alumni of a high school with a racist mascot and want to share your own experience, please email us at rebelspiritpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you.